I am Seungjoo, a first-year student at Daewon Foreign Language High School. Our topic today is how UNDP promotes SDGs and UNDP's potential in the face of COVID-19. First of all, we will give an introduction to what the UNDP does, which will be done by Hyungeon. We will then explain UNDP's efforts related to SDGs 8, 13, and 16, analyzing important takeaways, which will be done by me, Seungwoo, Yehun, and Hyunji, respectively. Then, Donghwan will focus on the problem that the world faces during COVID-19 and explain what UNDP can do related to SDGs. Finally, Chaen will wrap up with organizing the key takeaways we had in this presentation. Now, Hyungeon will introduce you to UNDP.
Hello, my name is Chung, going to Dwight School, Seoul. Today, I would like to introduce what UNDP is. Then, what is UNDP? UNDP was founded in 1965 in New York by the General Assembly of the United Nations. The UNDP was created to end poverty, achieve economic growth, decrease carbon emissions, and ensuring peace to the world. The UNDP has done a lot of its goals right now, with 35 million people having better service for poverty. 63 million people gained financial services, which is the most incredible out of all. Last, 290 million tons of carbon emissions were cut. Even though the world produced 45 billion tons in 2019, it's a good start to decrease carbon emissions. The three main goals of UNDP is sustainable development, climate and disaster resilience, and democratic governance and peace building. The first one is for sustainable development. It means the development that meets the needs present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own. For climate and disaster resilience, the UNDP tries to solve the issue by supporting countries that are shaped in four main areas: climate change adaptation, climate change finance, sustainable energy and disaster risk reduction. One of the agreements that were made for this was the Paris Agreement made in 2015. Its goal is to limit the climate change less than 1.5 Celsius. For democratic and peace building, it's what makes peace between countries. It also helps the core function of the government. This is in charge of the peace in the world, and this is very important because if two countries fight, then the gunpowder gas and the factories that are making guns will make more greenhouse gas. And last, they are all related because all of these things are trying to solve one issue: world peace and a better future. As you know, the world is at a risk with peace and climate change, and together the SDGs will make the world a better place to live. Now, Seungjoo will introduce what Sustainable Development Goal 8 is.
Now I'll be introducing you to SDG 8, which is related to the first main goal of UNDP, which was sustainable development, as Hyungeon kindly introduced for us. Sustainable Development Goal 8 is decent work and economic growth, with its full name being promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. First of all, what does sustained mean? Sustained economic growth means that economic growth is maintained over time, while sustainable economic growth means that economic growth is maintained over time without damaging the environment. Finally, inclusive economic growth refers to economic growth that is distributed fairly across society and creates opportunities for all. Growth should be shared with everyone, no matter their race, gender, or wealth. Being inclusive is important as it lowers barriers for the flow of capital, goods, technology, etc., and benefits the society as a whole. One of the things UNDP has done for sustained economic growth is Project Lebanon, Live Lebanon. Live Lebanon is a donation-based fundraising platform that reaches out to Lebanese diaspora worldwide to give them the chance to support people in their homeland. Gathering money is just one part of what they are doing. Live Lebanon mostly focuses its efforts and funds into projects that will be catalysts for economic and community development in underprivileged and underdeveloped Lebanese communities. This project is effective overall, and there are 2 points that we can learn from this. First, it has successfully reflected Lebanon's economy in creating the platform. The estimated 10 million Lebanese diaspora who live abroad play a vital role in Lebanon's economy, sending home 7.9 billion USD in 2017, and creating a platform where they can do more, where they can do that more easily, and where the money can be spent more effectively. This can be seen as a success. Second, there are many successful projects completed under this platform. One such example is the Holy Family Cooperative in Cana. The cooperative initially lacked any equipment, but was able to expand its business and offer traditional Lebanese sweets and pastries for a larger market after receiving essential equipment. Regarding sustainable growth, UNDP runs the NDC support program. The mission of the NDC support program is to help countries achieve their nationally determined contributions. This is a crucial part of what UNDP is doing, but combining that knowledge that Officer Ezra Segri at the Executive Office of the Secretary General provided us during a lecture during our program at day 3, more must be done for the NDCs, and UNDP's program must also do so too. COP26 in Glasgow pointed out that NDCs are so far away from the promises made at the Paris Agreement for a number of reasons, including insufficient finance, insufficient infrastructure, and weak political commitment. Although UNDP's program has already helped many regions, it should expand their efforts of providing expertise and helping implementation of NDCs if nations should truly actualize and contribute to the Paris Agreement. For inclusive economic growth, UNDP worked together with USAID in Azerbaijan for a project that included awareness-raising campaigns, a series of webinars, events, and a 4-month mentorship program for women in STEM. With this project, UNDP could provide education opportunities to women in order for them to join the workforce they desired. As Ms. Lily Gray from UNESCO emphasized at her lecture as well, gender imbalance in the STEM field is a worldwide problem, and stressing once again that inclusive economic growth is important for the whole society, UNDP's efforts have contributed not only to the Azerbaijan women, but to the whole society. Now, I will invite Seungwoo to talk about SDG 13.
Hello, I'm Seungwoo Baik, currently attending at Lighthouse International School in the Republic of Korea. And today I'll be introducing how the UNDP works to achieve SDG 13. Among the 17 goals of the UN's SDGs, one of the most crucial goals of them all is undoubtedly goal number 13, climate action. The reason why SDG 13 is important is that it aims to make necessary changes to our environment to protect it and the planet by building knowledge and capacity to meet climate change. The UNDP works to achieve Goal 13 through their Climate Change Adaptation Department. They assist governments to scale up the integration of climate change adaptation into policy, planning, and investments. The UNDP's actions for achieving SDG 13 can be seen in a UNDP-hosted project called Strengthening Climate Information and Early Warning Systems in Zambia to support climate resilient development. Before they started this project, the early warning systems and development plans in Zambia were poor and inefficient. But after the UNDP installed the critical technologies and developed necessary systems for climate change-related information, Zambia is now able to prepare and react to extreme weather events much more efficiently. These technologies include monitoring stations and communication channels and procedures for warnings. As the case of Zambia shows us, the UNDP has made or is making the necessary changes to the environment to protect it by building knowledge and capacity to meet climate change, which is, in fact, the purpose of the UNDP Climate Change Adaptation Department itself. If the UNDP Climate Change Adaptation Department carries on achieving its purpose and even helps in recovering past damages caused by extreme climate, SDG 13 can be achieved even more efficiently. Next up, Yehun will be presenting.
Thank you, Seungwoo. Hello, I am Yehun, currently attending Central Yeadam Christian Academy. I will introduce SDG 16 and UNDP's effort to promote human rights. What is SDG 16's goal? SDG 16 aims to significantly reduce all forms of violence and work with governments and communities to end conflict and insecurity. Promoting the rule of law and human rights are key to this process, as it reduces the flow of illicit arms and strengthens the participation of developing countries in the institutions of global governance. Strengthening human rights protection. UNDP works around the world to help eradicate poverty, reduce inequality and exclusion, and make development sustainable. Promoting human rights and strengthening the rules of law are also essential to achieving sustainable development, strengthening democratic governance, and preventing crisis. UNDP support to governments has been geared towards strengthening national systems of human rights protection to ensure that existing frameworks protect even the most disadvantaged people. Thus, UNDP supports the capacity and independence of institutions to enhance their role as cornerstone of national human rights system. A great example of this could be found from Turkey, as UNDP assisted in the development of the first strategic plan for the Ombudsman Institution in 2015. Drafted in a consultative process involving a range of actors, including government institutions, the judiciary, and human rights focused civil society organizations. The strategic plan addresses the needs of the national human rights architecture and incorporates international best practices with the strategic plan of the Ombudsman Institution. UNDP plans to support the implementation and provide ongoing expert advice. The UNDP and the Ombudsman Institution's joint project is considered an important step forward on the eve of the establishment of new institutions that will focus on anti-discrimination and equality, as well as independent oversight for law enforcement. The knowledge and experience gained during this process also resulted in long-term cooperation agreements being signed between the Turkish Ombudsman Institution and 5 similar institutions in Europe. UNDP remains strong for the use of technology in expanding the effectiveness and efficiency of government services. And UNDP plans to facilitate the incorporation of the SDGs into national targets and the government's reform agenda with technology and entrepreneurship expected to play an important role. As part of a wider effort to support e-governance, UNDP planned a follow-up project to integrate a number of e-services established in recent years, including e-notary, e-visa system, and e-consulate system, and improve the speed of services even as demand has increased. To maintain the effectiveness of the changes, improving local governance systems and effective public service delivery will remain a priority, with plans to introduce a new generation local administration reform program and pilot initiatives on local integrated systems. For UNDP, ensuring local service delivery meets the needs of disadvantaged groups will be key in developing and implementing initiatives in cooperation with local authorities. Gender equality and women's rights will also be a focus, and plans are in place to continue working with local governments and civil society to ensure the effective implementation and monitoring of gender-related policies, as well as improving the coordination and cooperation between different groups with aligned interests. Next, Hyunji will introduce about example of UNDP's efforts.
Hello, I'm Hyungeon, currently attending Korean International School in Hanoi. I will introduce an example of UNDP's efforts to stop conflicts between communities, which is one of the primary goals of SDG 16. In most of the region's prolonged conflicts, the situation has worsened considerably over the past several years. In some cases, long-standing political processes have ground to virtual stalemate. Moreover, when the conflicts continue to simmer dangerously, with violence at times escalating significantly. Within this increasingly polarized regional and international environment, the number of actors considered impartial has continued to decrease, having the unfortunate overall effect of further isolating these communities and making the situation for already vulnerable communities much more precarious. However, UNDP has shown several cases with a problem-solving ability standing out in these situations. One case I want to introduce is that UNDP did not just solve the surface problem, but found and solved the fundamental problem, lack of information. UNDP's work with DPA focuses on supporting UN country teams with peace and development advisors that assist UN programming in highly sensitive conditions with conflict, including BIH, Tajikistan, and Ukraine. In BIH, at a time of heightened social tension between youth and the government, and with considerable residual inter-ethnic decisions, the dialogue for the future programs opened up a new form of structured dialogue between young people and the mainly older members of the government about what type of future citizens want for their country, as well as nationwide opportunities to promote intercultural understanding and dialogue. The project went on to support a number of innovative initiatives that correspond with this vision. UNDP's interventions were not based on the issues they were dealing with. They looked at bigger things and found out the assessment that much of the tension between these communities arises due to a lack of information. UNDP provided these leaders with information on the challenges and risks facing their communities, allowing them to advocate for joint projects and activities with other communities to address those problems. As a result, this cooperative problems solving helped to normalize relationship, build trust, and reduce the potential for violent conflict. Now I will invite Donghwan.
Salutations, ladies and gentlemen. I am Donghwan, 11th grader from Youngil High School. We have currently analyzed what the UNDP does for the promotion of SDG 8, 13, and 16, and analyzed some key factors of these various projects. This was done on the basis of what all the esteemed lecturers from our 4-day program had repeatedly emphasized. It is important for the youth to be aware of these problems and to know what is happening in the world to solve them. But now I would like to broaden our horizons. We now know what the UNDP does and have analyzed its projects, but what more can it do? Specifically in the face of COVID-19 and the numerous world problems that it has caused. The problem I would like to introduce is resource centralization. Currently, almost all major production happens in China or surrounding Asian territories. This leads to a bottleneck problem of all of our resources funneled through one country. COVID has only highlighted this problem, with many factories closing their doors and stopping production, leading to a massive break in the global supply chain. The global resource network is a complex mesh of different industries, companies, factories, governments, and individual consumers all working together in tandem. If only one of these important links is compromised, it could lead to unforeseen consequences. The COVID pandemic is just the beginning of a new era, as governments and companies now realize the risk of having all our eggs in one basket and are now vying for their share of global resources. The solution? Decentralize what is centralized. If we reorganize and decentralize the world's resources and production, it could benefit both national and community level development. It would shift the financial responsibility from a central government or company to local communities surrounding the factory or facility. The locals would have a greater ability and opportunities to fill the needs of their specific communities, allowing for more job opportunities and being healthy for the local country's economy. Since labor is cheaper and easier in less developed countries, it will not only benefit the company, but also would help hasten the industrialization of the undeveloped countries in question. According to the World Bank, decentralization can be done in several ways, including local self-financing, co-financing, co-production, local taxes, and monetary transfers from multiple countries. Decentralization goes beyond stabilizing supply chains. It considers the context of who would make the best decisions on the public community level. Now, I would like to invite Chaen to talk about the role of UNDP in reorganization and to conclude our presentation.
Hello, my name is Yoon, and I'm currently attending Cornerstone Collegiate Academy of Seoul in South Korea. After researching COVID-19 decentralization and discussing with team members, we thought that UNDP's role in all of this would act as an organizer and balancer with foreign affairs. Since too much decentralization would also open its own can of worms, for example, in 2002, Texas completely cut itself off from the rest of the USA power grid and paid the price for that during the 2021 Texas power crisis. In addition, if they were to leave the companies to do what they wanted would only create more complications and will probably gravitate towards a new hotspot so UNDP can step in and regulate it and help spread out resources. Since reorganization of the supply chain is already slowly happening, UNDP can step in as a helping and guiding hand to balance and evenly distribute the economy and world resources. As we have explored what potential UNDP has as a balancer to solve problems in the face of COVID-19, I will now finish by organizing key takeaways that have been mentioned throughout this presentation and end by suggesting the way UNDP should go on in the future based on what our team researched. What UNDP did well in SDG 8 is that UNDP made a program that suits the economic situation of the country. It was of great help to the economy by implementing programs suitable for economic conditions. It is good to do an NDC support program, but the UNDP should actively strive to understand why each country cannot support NDC. In SDG 13, the UNDP has done well to prepare and adapt governments to climate change, but it would have been better if the UNDP could also focus on supporting and recovering the previous damage caused by climate change as much as preventing them. Finally, in SDG 16, UNDP integrated its policy with local needs, and in the case of the Ombudsman Institution, it used technology to overcome problems. In conclusion, UNDP is trying its best and is effectively tailoring projects and programs to local regions thanks to extensive communication between different affiliated parties. However, such efforts must be expanded and done at a much scrutinized level, as seen from the case of the NDC support program. When such a level is reached, UNDP should explore and utilize new ways such as technology for more effective implementation. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Seungjoo. I am the leader of Team 3. We just want to say to all participants, thank you for listening to our speech. We had quite a rough progress of preparing this presentation, as I'm sure most of you also had. And our team really appreciates everyone listening to our team and paying attention to it. We hope that more youth such as us can embrace more problems and worldwide problems such as this and think of more solutions as the SDG generation. Thank you.